Pedro from A&P-REACTS. I'm here today with Andri from Auðn. Am I pronouncing the name of the band correct? I really need your help here.
Yeah, it's Auðn.
Auðn.
Yeah, so yeah, when you put the A and U together in Icelandic, it becomes like a new vowel, and that one is Au.
All right. So I learned something. Yeah. I've learned something new today.
Yeah.
By the way, how do you guys feel when people like me absolutely butcher the name of the band?
We forgive you. You know, it's not like we chose an easy name. You know.
do you guys have like second thoughts about it? Like, do you guys think, you know, maybe we should have picked a name that's easier to pronounce?
Well, the rest of the guys they do, but I picked the name, so I'm doubling down. You know.
I love the fact that you're holding on to it. You're not letting go.
Yeah. But I think it also, I chose the name not only because it means something to me in Icelandic and all that, but a lot of the bands that I started listening to, you know, Drutk, Mgwa, and you know, none of these bands have easy to pronounce names. So, and I think it adds to the allure, you know, that made me, you know, more curious about them. So I decided to check them out, you know, especially the fact that they're, you know, usually, well, not Mugwa, I guess, but like with Drutk, they have all the lyrics in Ukrainian, you know, and with even some titles, a lot of the times, all the titles are even written in, you know, the Cyrillic alphabet. So I have a lot of songs with them that I have no way of saying, yes, I love this song. You know, it's like, yeah, it's like number 7 on that album that I don't know the name of because it's in Cyrillic, you know. So sometimes you have to look it up.
When the label sent me your album for review, I was like, okay, I'm gonna be stopped at the border if I ever try to enter Iceland, because I'm going to butcher every single thing on this album. I'm going to butcher the name of the band. I'm going to butcher the album name. I'm going to butcher the names of the songs. Like, I mean, there was like, I was even scared of doing it because I didn't want to offend anybody, but because some people really take it the wrong way. Fans of the bands like really get pissed off when you can't pronounce the names. But it's a foreign language, right? So it's not like something that we're familiar. Well, foreign to me, not foreign to you.
I think it's foreign to probably most of the world. I mean, there's only like 300. I think last time I checked, 360 or 80,000 people living in Iceland, and probably not even all of them speak Icelandic. You know, so yeah, that's. We're used to people not, you know, getting the accent right, and it's even for people who move to Iceland, and let's say you live there for 10 years and you've been speaking the language for 10 years. People can kind of always, most of the time, they can always tell that, you know, you're not raised, you know, born and raised in Iceland, because the accents are so, yeah, I guess, you know, there's just these tiny things you don't really notice if you haven't, you know, been raised speaking it, you know.
Yeah, I can totally relate to that. Being Portuguese, having my first language, English is my second language. Whenever we're listening to what's supposed to be a Portuguese person in a movie, I can totally tell if the person is Portuguese or not. Like they only need to say one word. I know exactly. Like I'm like, nah, that person is not Portuguese.
Exactly. You know, and especially, you know, like if with that Will Ferrell Eurovision movie, you know, I haven't seen it yet because, you know, I know he's making fun of Swedish people. He's not making fun of Icelandic people. You know, that's not how I mean, I can even tell there's also a very distinct Icelandic English accent, you know. And we like to joke around with that. It's especially like the older generation that, you know, haven't watched as much TV as us. You know, they speak very, you know, very harshly, and they how do you like Iceland, you know, and all this shit, you know. But you can always tell. Yeah, you can tell a lot of the times when Icelanders are speaking English as well, you know.
Well, to get into the album, I'm not going to pronounce the name of the album, so I'm just going to use the English translation, Prisoner of the Daydream. And that's basically the first question that I have for you. I wasn't sure if this album was really a representation of a prisoner of a daydream or a prisoner of a living nightmare, considering the atmosphere that the album holds. What's your take? Which one do you feel like that describes it better?
We actually all watched your review the other day. I really liked it, by the way. Yeah, the thing is, it's not the greatest translation, I would say, because it's so Vökudraumsins, that is more the waking dream, you know. So it's not someone, you know, in math class dozing off, you know, or whatever, you know. So a daydream seems kind of harmless. So yeah, like I said, it's rather the
It's a loose translation.
prisoner of the waking dream, you know. So that's I think it's well. The thing is, I don't. Aðalsteinn, he writes most of the lyrics, but a lot of the themes are someone who is kind of stuck in some place, both physically and mentally, and not sure if things are real, or kind of just losing his mind. It was Neither, if I remember correctly. That one is about this guy who's screaming at him, and the house has his house has come alive, and I think Alli, he kind of set the time for it to kind of be happening in, I'm guessing, around the 17th, maybe 18th century Iceland, where everyone was still basically living in, dirt houses. There's no heating, no electricity. I mean, I'm pretty sure they didn't even have glass in the windows, So it's this kind of, really, confined small house, and he's just trying to make it through winter, and so the house has come alive, It's another similar element is in Ljóstýra, which is kind of there's a Ljóstýra, basically literally means like ray of light, or like a small beam of light, breaking through the darkness, which you could also think about, possibly the same character. I don't know. It's all up for grabs.
It's all up to interpretation.
Yeah. So it could be the same character. He's still, in that house. He's in the middle of the Icelandic winter, and there's this ray of light, which is like the hope for a better time, when when the sun starts rising again, and he can actually get out. So it's a lot of just this harsh reality of having to live in like late feudal Iceland, I suppose. But it's not really a concept album in that way. We kind of, the red thread that goes through it is though, this kind of misery and hopelessness, but I wouldn't say it's a concept album though.
Yeah, I felt that red line that you're mentioning, it really comes across in the atmosphere that the album has, because it doesn't matter where you went with either of the songs, the atmosphere seemed to me, at least, to be very consistent throughout the whole record. And that is my next question. How do you balance an album that has a very consistent atmosphere, but it has a very dynamic sound?
I think it might come down to how we are writing these songs. So our writing process is at both times, like incredibly slow, and at the same, and then we have these spurts, where we just throw out maybe 5 songs or something. But the thing is, we can get to those kind of spurts because we've been working on maybe a rough idea for a couple of years or something and then all of a sudden there's this kind of explosion where we manage to flesh it out with maybe another newer idea. So I think that dynamicism probably comes from these spurts, but the more traditional feel or atmosphere, I think that's what ties them together, over a certain theme, although you could maybe I mean when you're talking about creating something, it's usually all up for grabs. You could even say it's the opposite, like we have this idea, but then when we write a lot of songs in the same period of time, then they are gonna also influence each other. I think it's just it's this kind of this eternal battle between, I don't know, maybe me and Auðn, or like I want to kind of I like keeping things the same, or I have a very narrow kind of way to think about our what sounds like us, not necessarily is this black metal or is this kind of metal, but what is like our kind of soul,
Your sound, yeah.
And I think Auðn and Hjalti, although I can't really I can't really claim anything, but I think they're more interested in shaking things up, every now and then. So there's always this, we do have, I think, for each album, we're going in a certain direction, but I think we're never kind of losing sight of the path, though, we stray a bit more on this one.
Yeah,
but
yeah, you take some detours.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we're still kind of going in the in the same direction.
Some of the songs, I felt that when I was listening to them, they were so dynamic. Like you feel like you're walking this beautiful path, and then suddenly the path disappears in front of you, and you're falling into an abyss. It has some of the tracks have this almost on the dime change. It's not like there's a progression to it; it just happens. And I felt that it's almost a representation of Iceland and the nature and how the country is, where you can go from having this beautiful scenery, and the next thing you know, you're in this volcanic land that looks like you just landed on Mars. It has that abrupt change from second to second, and I felt the music had a little bit of that. Do you see a merger of those two worlds coming together?
Yeah, I guess it. I mean, I hadn't really thought of it that way, but it probably has some kind of a subtle, subconscious influence on us. And you're absolutely right about the, if you just have to drive for 5 minutes and you're in kind of a new biome or a climate even in Iceland. If you drive for, well, maybe not 5 minutes, but in 2 hours, you're gonna, you'll see, I would say, at least 4 kind of different, vastly different landscapes, and of course it even changes more by the seasons. There's a huge difference. I mean, I wouldn't recommend going out on the country in the winter, it's how people die.
Yeah, I living in Canada, I mean, I'm sure perhaps our winters are not as bad as yours, but I totally get that feeling that it's perhaps not a good idea to go out for a nice walk, specifically while drinking, because things could totally go sideways.
Yeah, you could end up like Valfar in winter.
Yeah, exactly. Something as bad as that could definitely happen.
Yeah. Well, I guess thankfully, we all kind of, most people live in the capital, and it's not as bad because living by the sea, it tempers it a lot, so I don't think we have like what you have in Canada, these like minus 40-degree winters if you go in the center, I suppose, But then again, nobody lives there, right?
Yeah, it makes things a little bit better if there's nobody living under those circumstances. Here, even in the city, we sometimes reach within the cities, we reach like -40, -45 Celsius, which
Okay,
is like,
wow, that's crazy. Yeah, it's
yeah,
not
like,
that we could. I think we could maybe, on the on top of the glaciers and in the middle of the highlands, we do get that, but nobody goes there. So Iceland has a pretty temperate climate compared to, being called Iceland and all that, which I think is probably the only reason anyone lives there. you know.
it's
What
that
city are you?
it's that old joke with Greenland having more ice than Iceland, and Iceland
Yeah,
having more greenery
yeah,
than
yeah.
Greenland, you know?
Yeah, you can't imagine how many times I've heard that going through the States. It's like it's like the only thing they teach them or something, about Iceland. I heard Iceland was green and Greenland was ice.
Yeah, I think that's like the only thing they learn about European geography or about Iceland and the Nordic countries. I think that's it. That's
Yeah, yeah.
that's all they know. It's
I
like us
think,
in Canada. They think we live in igloos.
yeah, yeah, yeah. We've heard that too.
I,
The
I, I want to ask you about the construction of the album because there
Mhm.
was some similarities that I found on the opening track with the closing track. Am I hearing things, or did you guys tie in the opening of the album with the closing of the album?
um, maybe it's because we were working on them kind of, around the same time, that maybe they have an influence on each other because of that. The last one at first was actually supposed to be two different songs, and we were gonna cut both of them because they just weren't working out. And I'm just so glad that we, gave it one more shot, because the last one is kind of my favorite
Yeah.
on the album. It really brings everything together. Um, but I guess there are, some similarities. I mean, with starting slow and then building up and all that, But yeah, I think it for me at least, it's probably subconscious rather than a conscious decision.
Mhm.
But we always, there is also, I mean, we always try to, when we're done recording, just, recording in our rehearsal space, we have a pretty nice setup, a couple of mics, and we mic up the drum kit and everything. When we're done, with what we think is going to be the album, we usually throw it up in a few, in a few different playlists, and we kind of just figure out, what fits after what, what's the, where's, do we need like a high point or a change here,
Mhm.
so that might also be part of it, so subconsciously again, deciding to have the first song and the last one the last,
Yeah, I thought there was a lot of similarities between them, and it kind of tied the album in a way that you could go full circle. It's an album that doesn't necessarily end, because the way
yeah,
one ends, it almost feels like it's restarting again with the opening track. But even how the songs are structured and how they're put together, there's definitely a lot of similarities. Now, when
hmm
you go into the recording part of it, what part of recording an album like this is the most rewarding for you?
um I think it's honestly just when the song starts coming together, and it's usually maybe the first, second, maybe third recording we do in the rehearsal space, because, and then, getting to listen to it, and then, because that's the moment in time when you're the most excited about something, it doesn't matter how much you like your stuff, you have to rehearse it like 100 times before we go in the studio, and that, you have to be really invested in a song to still, have that same amount of interest in it, when you finally get to the studio. And for this one, just this album, I mean, I'm not sick of it yet, so that's a that's a very positive, but after the studio, I did have to, kind of not listen to it for like a month or something, and that's also the best part. Well, not also. I mean, I already picked one. That's my second favorite part. Is when everything has already come together, and you've kind of maybe, I wouldn't say forgotten about the songs, but they're not as fresh in your mind anymore, and like you just let them, you stay away from them, and when you revisit them, and that's
it's almost like you're
also.
rediscovering them.
Yeah, exactly, and that's also kind of everything, like all the criticisms you were thinking about, and they all just fade away, and you realize it's. I mean, I'm gonna sound like a arrogant prick here, but you realize it's a great fucking album.
You're okay. You can totally say that. I mean, it's
yeah. I mean,
it's totally understandable.
If I wouldn't love my album, then I'm doing something wrong.
Exactly. If you don't love it, like how can you expect other people to enjoy it?
Yeah, and I mean that's also why we went into this. We want to make music for ourselves, and if other people like it, great, but that's not the end goal. It's about, all, I think everyone in the band agrees that the best part in the entire process of just being in a band is being able to write. Everything else can come in second.
I can see that. I got one more question for you, and that is for those that perhaps never heard of the band or never heard of the album. How would you describe the band and this record to somebody who's never heard it before?
Would that person know about metal or
Yeah, definitely a person
my
who listens
grandma?
to. No, no. No, definitely not your grandma. I mean, maybe your grandmother listens to metal. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a possibility too. But no, definitely somebody who listens to metal who perhaps wants to listen to you guys and ask you, okay, like what can I expect? Like what kind of band are you? What's the sound on this record? How would you start to describe that?
Well, like the easy answer would be black metal, but it's not really black metal. I mean, parts of it, we even finally first got our first angry black metal guy somewhere on Instagram. This is not black metal. That's which I mean, it had to happen at some point.
It had to happen. Yeah.
He's not wrong, to an extent, like the Verður vona bráð, the fourth, wasn't it the fourth one, I think. I mean, it's like rock and roll, the thing is,
But black metal has a lot of rock and roll in it, so
yeah, it does. I mean, if you listen to Dark Throne, or especially the later Dark Throne, I love that shit. But I would kind of treat this like I would treat a movie. I don't want to spoil anything. It's a journey. And I would just tell people to just play it. I think at least for most people, the first half a minute is gonna kind of entice them to listen, and then it depends on whether they hate screaming or not. If they keep listening after the first 30 seconds, because it gets kind of crazy after that.
that's when the journey starts. Really, like the beginning is just the appetizer.
Yeah, exactly. Really, yeah. It's I was even kind of taken aback when I first heard the mixed and mastered version from Jens, and I was like, holy shit, this is it's kind of crazy.
Yeah. But it's gripping, and I think that's the important thing. I felt that this is a record that's really worth for the 10 songs that it has. The 10 songs are individual, but when you put them together, it really makes this an album. I think this is a record that you really have to listen to the whole album and not just nitpick and listen to a song here and a song there. I mean,
Yeah.
individually they work on their own, but for you to really get the full essence of what this album is about, you have to listen to the album from beginning to the end.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that should be the case with every album, you know. I usually don't listen to bands because of their songs. I listen to them because of their albums, you know. I usually, you know, have to like at least half of the album, you know. If I don't, then I just usually stop listening to the band, you know.
Yeah, I'm a little bit like you. For me, the albums are really important. I can take favorite songs from them, but the album as a whole has to work for me. And if it doesn't work, it's really hard to like the individual songs if I don't like how they play together.
Yeah, exactly. And this is why I don't like the Spotify business model, you know. I've
Neither
always
do
been
I actually. I'm
I've
not on.
always been a huge fan of Bandcamp, you know, because it just, you know, it seems more fair for the artists, and for someone who still, I mean, my old iPod is still working, you know. I've had it for like fucking 15 years now, probably still going strong. So, you know, yeah, when I put on music, I always, you know, I have full albums. Very rarely. It's only when I'm, you know, having a party or something, just to get rid of the complainers, you know, that I shake things up a bit, you know.
You know, you and me are very alike, you know, because
Yeah.
I'm the same way. I still use an iPod for my music. I don't
Yeah.
listen to Spotify at all.
The
I
only
like
way.
I like to listen to the albums, and I like to listen to the albums the way they were created, the way they were meant to be listened to. I could
Yeah.
have favorite songs within them, but I want to listen to them the way they are. And I sometimes even listen to a song that I really like outside of the context of the album, hurts the song, because then
Yeah.
it doesn't even sound the same because I didn't have the other song that came before and I didn't have the song that came after. So it almost feels a
Exactly.
little bit out of place.
It's like, you know, it's like starting a movie in the center. It doesn't make any sense, you know.
Yeah, or and pausing it and rewinding and fast forwarding, it just
Yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
I hate it when people do that.
Yeah, it's just. But you know, we're a dying breed. There's not many people that think like us anymore. So
Yeah, I guess. Well, you never know, though. I think it's maybe this is kind of an introverted way at looking at music. You know, instead of always just waiting for. I think there's also a lot of people that listen to music expecting something to happen. You know, like waiting for something to happen. You know, and some of them are in my band. You know, that's why that's why we have to be so chaotic. You know, we have to keep things interesting. But I love, you know, I love a song or an album that just drudges on. You know, has maybe two, you know, two maybe three riffs or something, and just milks them. You know, like what one example is on the Philosophem album by Bursum. Wasn't it? I think Jesus Todd, where it's just one, like it's two riffs and it's like a 10-minute song, I think, you know, and it's just like, you know, I love that shit, you know.
yeah, you're killing me in how you're throwing your bandmates under the bus. But
Yeah, maybe edit that out, you know. It would be we have this, you know, friendly banter usually, and I think I'm not saying anything I wouldn't say to their face. So
yeah, and I think they know that. I think they know that.
yeah.
Well, Andri, thank you very much for your time today. I really appreciate talking to you about the band, about the record. It was an absolute blast. All the best to you and the guys in the band with this release. Came out October 30th on Season of Mist. Go check it out. It's a great record. Buy the record, listen to it from beginning to the end, and enjoy it.
Get it on Spotify. No, not on Spotify. No, on Bandcamp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or just go to the label's website and purchase a vinyl or something. You know, like that stuff is having a huge comeback now. Everybody likes their vinyls now, so go pick
exactly. I think it's like probably 90% the metal community, you know.
Yeah.
Which
It's
is
100%. I think it's 100% the metal community driving the vinyls back. I think.
And which
Well,
is
Andrew,
probably why we can be a small band from Iceland and we can actually afford to go on tour. It's this loyalty within the metal scene. If you had, I mean, let's say you were some shitty indie band from Iceland, and you had like the same amount of followers we do, like 15,000 on Facebook. Nobody would care about you. I mean, 15,000 in a popular music genre, that's nothing, but for us, that's huge,
Yeah, you're 100% correct about that. I mean, if you're a hip hop artist and you have 15,000 followers or on Facebook, that's probably just your family and friends.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I come from probably the third biggest town in Iceland. So, it's a small town. It's half that town, that's the followers.
That's a lot.
It's so, and of course, I think it was kind of interesting, but a couple of years ago, we broke a certain threshold. We had more fans in Poland than in Iceland, so that was kind of like a stepping stone for me. Like, that's interesting,
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you once again.
Yeah, you too.
All the best for you and the band and with the album. I hope to see you guys touring once this virus is over. Hopefully, I'll get to see you guys in Canada playing, or I'll get a chance to go to Iceland and see you guys play there. All the best, really. I wish you guys that, and stay safe.
Yeah, thanks. You too. I hopefully, we've been planning on Canada for a long time, but it always just seems to fall apart. I think it's because of the US.
Yeah, because I don't think you guys need a visa to come to Canada to play in Canada.
No. We can, or I think we might need, but it's like way cheaper. I mean, if we're coming to play, but we were thinking we've been joking about this, like have a North American tour and only play in Canada and Mexico.
Oh man, that would be hilarious. Yeah. I think it would be absolutely hilarious. We would definitely welcome you guys in Canada. It would be an absolute pleasure to see you guys play here. So maybe keeping our fingers crossed. Hopefully that's in the future soon.
I was so lucky to do a tour in Canada with Negura Bunket and Denfari. It's very nice, and there's definitely a much stronger metal scene in Canada than in the States, and I think it's just the further north you get, the more people listen to metal. It's probably just the depression or something. I don't know.
It's the weather.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's why you have countries like Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, with all these the highest concentration of metal bands per 100,000 people.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, once again, man, take care. All the best. And
we'll see you soon. Yeah. All right. See ya, man. Thanks for the chat. See ya.